Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to this presentation about obeying your parents in Islam. Now, before we begin, I would like to convey a general rule of thumb in Islamic law, in fiqh, jurisprudence. Generally, if your parents order you to do something and it does not go against Islam, it is an obligation upon you to follow their commands. However, if they command you to do something such as, say if your parents tell you to worship Jesus, and this is shirk, this is not allowed, this is haram. So in these type of circumstances, you don't obey your parents in such an order, but instead you still show your parents love and respect, but you don't follow their command. However, if your parents tell you to do something which is allowed in Islam, that object now becomes an obligation upon you. For example, say your mother tells you, "Beta, drink your milk." Now, generally, drinking milk it's mubah, it's permissible, it's halal. But when your mother tells you, "Beta, drink your milk," drinking that glass of milk now becomes an obligation upon you, and you have to do it. It's no longer just mubah; it's wajib. Similarly, say praying your sunnah. Praying your sunnah is mustahab; it's desirable. But if your mother tells you, "Beta, pray your sunnah," then you have to pray your sunnah, and those sunnah become obligatory upon you. So to emphasize this point, I wanted to share with you the story of Juraish. Now, Juraish was from Bani Israel. In English, you'd call him George. So Juraish, one day, he was a very righteous slave of God. He was a monk. He was always in worship, and always, his life was dedicated to the haqq. And one day, Juraish, he's praying nawafil. It's not farad, he's praying nawafil. And his mother calls out to him. She's like, "Ya Juraish." She's calling him. She expects him to respond to her call. And in this type of circumstance, since he's praying nawafil, which he's praying is mustahab, it's desirable, but it's not wajib. But responding to his mother is wajib. So in this type of circumstance, he is actually required to break his salah and answer the call of his mother, because wajib is higher than mustahab. So for Juraish, he thinks about this and he's like, should I break my prayer or should I continue on and then I'll respond later? So he thinks about it and he decides to continue praying, and he doesn't answer the call of his mother. And she calls out a second time, "Ya Juraish." And again, a second time, he thinks about it, but he continues his prayer. And she calls out a third time and he doesn't respond again. And his mother, kind of irritated with him a little bit, she just makes a short quick dua against him. And she makes the dua, "Ya Allah, allow him to enter into the fitna with a prostitute, enter into a trial that involves a prostitute before he dies." She makes this quick dua and goes on her way. And and time goes on, basically. Time passes, many years pass, and his mother dies. And Juraish, he's still the baller monk of his arena. He's still a very pious person, always in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one day, he's just hanging out, and another group is hanging out, and it's a prostitute, and she's hanging out with her friends. And the prostitute, she's talking with her friend, and conversation comes up about Juraish, and she tells them, "Do you think I could seduce him?" And everyone's like, "No, you can't seduce Juraish. He's the baller monk." And this prostitute tells them, "Watch me. I will go and seduce Juraish." And she goes to Juraish and she offers herself to Juraish. And she's like, "You want a piece of me?" And Juraish is like, No, a'udhu billah, this is totally haram, this is wrong, I don't want anything to do with you." And so then this hooker, this prostitute, she's been rejected by Juraish, and Juraish knows the rules. So instead, she goes on, she continues her way, she finds a random shepherd, and she sleeps with him, and she gets pregnant with the shepherd's baby. And when she comes back, she starts telling people, "This is the baby of Juraish." And people are surprised. They're shocked. They're like, "Juraish had slept with the prostitute? No way!" And people start rioting and havocing upon Juraish. They burn down his house. They've gone crazy on him. They're like, "Juraish, we thought you were the righteous monk. How could you sleep with a prostitute?" And Juraish is like, "Oh my God, what has happened?" He didn't know what to do. He was so totally confused. He never slept with a prostitute. He knows it's not his baby, but how does he prove himself in this type of circumstance? And then he remembers. He's like, "Oh, that one time I wronged my mother. And he realizes that this may be the cause of this havoc that has been caused upon him, this fitna that has happened to him. So he tells the people, he's like, guys, time out, I'll be right back. And he goes. And he prays to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him. And subhanAllah, Allah forgives him. So he comes back and he's trying to prove his innocence. And then all of a sudden, the baby in the cradle speaks out and he says, Juraish is not my father, the shepherd is. And Juraish's name has been cleaned, it's been cleared, and alhamdulillah, and they live happily ever after. The people, they apologize to Juraish, they help him rebuild his house, and everyone goes on to live as they were. And I wanted to share the story of Juraish, because I wanted to show and emphasize how important it is for us to listen to and obey our parents. Juraish got in so much trouble because he didn't listen to his mother while he was praying. So think about that and compare it to, what about when my mother calls me and I'm watching television and I don't respond, or I'm playing Xbox and I don't respond, or she's calling me on my phone and I click ignore. So Islamically speaking, we have to give utmost respect and allegiance to our parents, and we need to always obey them fi sabilillah. I hope this story helps gives us a proper understanding of how important it is to obey our parents. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to email me. You can reach me at yislam101@gmail.com. Again, it's yislam101@gmail.com. Jazakumullah khair for listening to this presentation, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.